This episode of This Week in Web Series is brought to you by Spidvid.com. Connect, collaborate, and create video entertainment. Today's special guest on This Week in Web Series is Jeff Koenig from OMFGeek. Okay, welcome. This is episode 6 of This Week in Web Series. We have with us Jeff Koenig, and he's from OMFGeek. He is in the academy. He's on the you're on the directors. If people don't know who you are, Jeff, please tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. I am a self-described web television evangelist. And Ninja Monkey also, but that goes to one of my earlier companies I'll talk about in a second. I'm the founder and CEO of OMFGeek. We are a digital production company specializing in genre entertainment for sci-fi, fantasy, gaming, anime, superheroes, basically the Comic-Con crowd. Our idea is that if we make a bunch of shows and we make them all for the same audience, it gives us the ability to carry those audiences over from project to project and not have to start from scratch every single time. I'm also on the board of directors of the International Academy of Web Television, where I am the chair of the communications committee. So I run all of their internal and external communications, which is a fairly recent development. So I know that organization hasn't had the best reputation in the past as far as being communicative with the members in the overall industry, but that's changing rapidly. It's a growing organization that I'm proud to be a part of. And I'm also on the board of directors of a company called Agency Media, which is a distribution licensing company that helps people who make video content get paid for it by finding additional distribution avenues for their shows and their videos.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's cool. And who's your little buddy behind you?
Oh, this is... So part of an upcoming project that we have for YouTube, actually, is we're going to be doing this geek variety show. The concept here is we're going to put together a show that comes out initially once a week, and then we're going to ramp it up to twice a week. It'll be launching soon in October. But the idea is we're going to present just some of the best geek video and geek shows either created specifically for the platform or highlighting stuff that's being made and being put out there, so that we become kind of a one-stop shop for great geek video. And we'll package it all up. We're going to have 5 different little clips and segments within the show. The whole thing will probably run about 10-15 minutes per episode, but it's, like I said, those episodes are created by putting together a bunch of different things, so it won't be long and drawn out. It'll actually be really exciting and jump from cool thing to cool thing to cool thing to cool thing and just kind of leave you going, wow! So as part of that, we wanted to have kind of a mascot for the show. I contacted the guys who built the puppets for a show called We Lost Our Goal, right. Which got a lot of press for burying $10,000 in gold coins in New York, making their episodes about clues to finding the treasure. Right. But I contacted them and I said, I want a Wampa. I want to revisit Empire Strikes Back and get that creature who captures Luke and gets his arm chopped off with the lightsaber. And so
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Mine's bigger though. Mine's a little bigger.
Yeah. Well, you've been working with puppets longer, so.
Yeah. Yours is pretty cool.
Say,
we'll have them battle later.
I mentioned that Spell Fury is on OMFGeek and has been for a while now. On our website, we tend to take geek shows and videos made by other YouTubers and other people in the space and embed them on the site. At this point, we're working with a lot of great creators like 1 Minute Galactica and also, Felicia Day, yourself, just to kind of create this place where people can go. And it's a pretty good mutual relationship, which is how we got you on board, because all we're really doing is embedding the player. So you're keeping your views, you're keeping your audience. Any extra views that we get you is just kind of a bonus. We're not taking anything away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're giving us great stuff that we can use to, help build an audience around it.
Yeah, it's nice that it's all in one spot, sort of the same sort of style. No, it's a great idea for a website.
I think you'll see more of that from YouTube in the future as they start to really kind of put together this whole channels kind of idea and, curate YouTube creators and YouTube channels that are creating similar content and put them in a more cohesive place so that...
well, they tried that with shows.
Audiences.
They tried that with shows. There's show pages, but I think they dropped it. It was actually a great idea, just like you said, where there was fantasy, sci-fi, different categories, and they were giving people their own show pages. So Spell Fury ended up with its own show page, and I was like, oh, this is awesome! They're finally doing this, where it'll be easy to find. And for a while it was. We were picking up a lot of subscribers who were in the sci-fi fantasy category. But then all of a sudden, one day YouTube just dropped the whole... it used to be alphabetical, and they just dropped that. So only the most popular shows were being featured, and you couldn't dive deep into the content, unfortunately.
My understanding of and YouTube in general tends to release bits of information, but overall be fairly secretive about their long-term plans, because Google doesn't ever want to answer the question of whether or not YouTube's making money, until they can definitely say yes. But for now, they play things pretty close to the vest. But my understanding and what I've seen and the people that I've talked to that either that work for YouTube are all indicating that discovery is a problem on YouTube. Over 70% of the videos have less than 100 views, and there's just a ton of content out there, and they're working on that. I mean, the time when YouTube could exist is basically this big Raiders of the Lost Ark warehouse of video
right.
with the search bar up front and a couple of videos featured on the front page. It doesn't work anymore in the sense that it's getting harder and harder, I think, for people to find things, even when they know what they're looking for, and certainly when they're not sure what they're looking for. And they're trying to address that because it's in YouTube's best interest for their videos to be watched. Yeah.
It's well, I'm finding movies right now are really being pushed a lot. I'm, they're trying to obviously make money off renting movies. So I'm finding them in the search now, where I'll search for something, and there'll be a movie for $3.99 or $2.99 in the actual search. I don't quite know how I feel about that.
YouTube's always going to be a socially driven platform first. I mean, whatever they do isn't going to compare to having 100,000 subscribers telling everyone to watch your videos. Not that we have 100,000 subscribers. We're actually still relatively, as a company, OMFGeek is still relatively new, putting out productions. That said, going back to the point, YouTube is always going to be about sharing and social discovery and having a friend come to you and say, hey, did you see this? It's awesome. Mm-hmm. But what I like about that is when you have projects like Black Box TV, the types of content that are being shared off the YouTube platform are really starting to expand and grow. And the successful creators that have established this fan base that's just ginormous are now in a position to where they can keep doing what they did that got them there in the first place, but they can expand that to start trying new things and keeping the audience that they built up in the first place. Yeah,
the scripted shows are tough to do, like something like Spell Fury on YouTube or like a web series on YouTube. It's more personality driven, and the only way I've had success on YouTube, we just cracked 8,000 subscribers yesterday.
Congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, and I've been on there since 2006 and just slowly built it up, but I know that just releasing a web series isn't going to get you a lot of subscribers. You have to give the audience some YouTube-ish type videos. So I do a variety of videos, and I've done that over the last a few years. So I'm always constantly testing the audience and seeing what they like and trying out new ideas. But my main...
Still doing the D show?
No, I haven't done that in a while. Yeah, I'd like to do it again. Like they were getting like 10,000 views, I think, per video. So I want to do that again. But yeah, like that video, or I released a little puppet video 2 days ago. And
I think about This Week in Web Series you're doing too. I don't know.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah. I
think I've heard about it.
Yeah, and this is a test too. It's like this Week in Web Series is really, it's a niche audience. It's people who want to talk about web series, and it's not that big of an audience. But I enjoy doing it. I think that's the trick. I think you have to be doing something that you're passionate about and that you're enjoying, or you won't continue to do it.
Well, it's interesting because I released my first web series in 2007, and then in 2008 I moved back to California to an area where I really didn't have a support base as far as creators to work with on projects. I was up in the Bay Area. This was before I knew the guys at Revision 3 and Current, before I was really familiar with the creative community up in the Bay Area, which is there. It's small, but it exists. So what I did instead is I launched a site called broadcastassassin.com, which I launched initially as a production resource for making web series, tips, and tutorials, and I would interview people like Tom Conkle, who you had on the show, and Brett Register, and a bunch of different people who were making shows at the time. This was, late 2008, early 2009. Most of them are actually still making shows, which is impressive because it shows the perseverance of web creators. But actually, Hayden Black was our first interview, and now he's got a TV show. But what I found with that is I went into it thinking, there's only a small group of people that are interested in making web series. But there's also, at the time, there wasn't really any way to get information about making them. So, I figured we'd be a tiny, tiny little version of, like, dbxuser.com.
Right.
That was kind of what the thought was. And honestly, I wasn't able to continue it because I took a job running social media marketing for a video company that took up all my time. But for I think the site was up for, like, 5 months or something like that. For those 5 months, the response was really kind of incredible. We were doing like 18,000 uniques a month, which is pretty good for a small new blog site.
Sure.
And we had a forum community that it was just exploding because it was one of the first times web video creators could have a conversation with other web video creators and talk about things like, what are you doing to market? What are you doing to fund your shows? So facilitating that connection was really kind of an amazing time in my life because not only did I get to meet a whole bunch of amazing people who are friends to this day, but you also got to kind of watch people, even people in LA who live a couple miles from each other but had never really met, or they'd seen each other across the room at a loud, noisy filter party or something like that. It was the first time they really got to sit down and talk about, their strategies and what they were doing and the problems they were having and how they were getting solved and, do solution comparing to try and get past them. And so bringing it back to This Week in Web Series, I think you'll be surprised. First of all, almost everyone who's uploading to YouTube is by definition making videos. Yep. Whether they consider it web series or not, there are always going to be things that apply, and there's advice that is happening and will continue to happen on this show for expanding your presence on YouTube, developing an audience on YouTube, and beyond. It'll probably start out small, and there's definitely a cap of the number of people in the world that are going to be interested in a show like this, but I think it's more people than you think based on my experience with Broadcast Assassin.
Yeah, well, I know, I've been listening to Indie Innertube, New Mediocrity, anything. It's just nice to know that other people are facing the same problems, to hear tips. By the way, obligatory shout out to April and Amanda and Steve, Zadie, and Chris
I've been interviewed on Indie InterTube. I moderated a New York episode of New Mediocrity. So I love those guys. We actually are putting together another New York episode of New Mediocrity. I'm not exactly. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks we'll be able to record it. But we're gonna have some really good guests on that show, including Mesh Flinders from Lonely Girl.
Oh, cool. Okay. Right on.
So, it'll be fun.
Well, they did the last episode for New Mediocrity was, I believe, some Lonely Girl 15 cast members, I believe.
Yeah, and Chris McCaleb was complaining because they've had Miles and Greg on as well.
Right.
The only main Lonely Girl person they've never gotten on New Mediocrity was Mesh. So I was like, "Don't worry about it, Chris. I got your back."
Oh, good, good. Right on.
So, because he's in New York now, so.
And I think it's really important to analyze what's worked in the past, and is there things they were doing that we're not doing? Did we lose?
Yeah.
Like, they were very innovative just from listening to it, the last episode, and I love that. I love that it's a sense of community, and even you and I, we're just. I've known about you for years, and we've talked, text-wise online, but we've actually never talked face-to-face, so this is great.
Yeah, and I'll certainly let you know if I get up to Canada, and by the same token, if any of this wild, wacky ride ever takes you to New York, please let me know you're in town. First beer's on me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, and that's what this show is about, is like, this is probably what we would talk about over a beer if we met in person. Sharing tips.
We just wouldn't be smart enough to record it so that other people could enjoy it.
Right. And we probably wouldn't bring our puppets with us, or would we?
Probably not. Although I guess it really depends on what kind of bar we go to, doesn't it? Right.
Well, that wampa could pick you up chicks. It's pretty cute.
No comment.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see.
Have a puppy or a baby, so
Right. Now, SpidVid is sponsoring this episode, and I just want to say a few things about them. Well, first of all, their motto is connect, collaborate, and create video entertainment. And I've used them before, and I think they're a great tool for web series creators. And
absolutely.
If a project's going to happen and you need people on your crew or people to help you in post or narrators or actors, it is so easy just to go there and post a project, and you're going to get tons of people bidding on your project. You'll get emails saying, hey, this person's bid. You go through and then you look at their profile. A lot of them, the actors have demos, like demo reels, and if they're into visual effects, they've got like visual effects reels, and you can see how good they are. And I haven't really mentioned this too much. I know I mentioned it in the last episode with Lewis, but people are making money on SpidVid. It's not all for free. I can go there and say, hey, I want $20 an hour or $30 an hour doing After Effects work, and right. So people are making a lot of money doing it. I got lots of people when I did Women in Web Series who were they were asking like $20, $30, and hey, if I had a job that needed to be done, I'd pay them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's also a revenue share. So let's say you and I want to do a project. We can say, well, we're writing it, we're directing it, but we want to give the cameraman and the post-production people a percentage. We set that up beforehand. They sign on, and then it's already set. We're not scrambling after and trying to give them points, or they're asking for more money than we got. It's all ahead of time, and I think it's great. I haven't really been saying that, but yeah, you can make money as a web series creator on there as well.
Well, what's great about that is, we built this industry over, ever since Grape Jam and The Spot and Scott Zacher and stuff in like '97. All the stuff that's come since then, a lot of it has been done on deferment. A lot of it has been done on promises. Well, if this ever makes money, blah blah blah. there's a real change now. And look, I'm not saying that you're going to get paid for every web series job you ever do, but there's a change now where it's still not a lot of money, right? No. But you're getting to the point where you can reasonably expect that if you're say a DP or a gaffer or a makeup artist who wants to work on web series, that more and more of them will put some money into your pocket, either as part of the production process or actually live up to the whole deferment concept. And SpidVid does a really great job of helping to facilitate that. So I think it's a great platform. I think connecting different creators is super important in this space because we learn so much faster and we grow so much faster when we're working together than when everybody's kind of just like doing their own thing, making the same mistakes and not sharing that knowledge. And to have it's I really kind of liken, they have different focuses, but in the sense that they're platforms and organizations who are creating connectors and connecting creators and allowing them to share knowledge and work together. SpidVid and the IWTV are kind of in the same boat in that regard. And that to me is the value in both those companies.
Yeah, because where else is there where if you wanted to make a web series, you could just post it and then people are actually bidding on the project and you can look through their work and you're getting emails. It makes it really easy. And I don't know why more people don't go and at least make a profile and try it out.
I think we'll see more of that, and certainly not like the SpidVid guys aren't good at getting their name out there. They've been, if I can say so, busting their ass since day one. Yep. Going their brand name, establishing who they are, getting out there and making connections to creators in the space on a one-to-one basis. I mean, I was one of the early people that they reached out to, but even then, they're still, if you land on their radar, they're going to reach out to you and tell you about what's going on and get you involved. And that, even as a model, is something that a lot of us could learn for audience building. It's more work than getting 10,000 people in with one event or one effort, but there has to be kind of that also additional thing of saying, hey, I think you're really going to like what we're doing. Why don't you come check it out? But doing it, in a non-pitchy, salesy way, but growing your audience by making connections one person at a time. Yeah. So anyway, thanks VidVid for sponsoring this episode. And now, Jeff, you wanted to talk about entrepreneurship in the web series space. I do, because I think we're seeing a lot of, whether it's trying to follow, and for lack of a better term, I'll call it the YouTube model, or it's trying to follow the web series model of, I'm going to do a Kickstarter Indiegogo campaign, and then I'm going to do 6 episodes, and we'll put them out there on Blip or YouTube, and just kind of wait for someone to find us and say we're amazing and hand us a check. I'm not saying that can't work. It's certainly possible still, although it's much more difficult because if you start on YouTube now, you, for obvious reasons, won't have already had a channel where you're putting out videos consistently for 4 years, like some of the top creators on the space. And, it certainly has happened that people have put out shows that have been discovered. Good examples of that are, everybody points to the Guild, but there's also Universal Dead, the Mercury Men, which never even got to put out a show before they were able to sell that just off their trailer. Reese, and I love the guys at Valdine Entertainment, Al Thompson and Brian Rowling. They did a pilot that they started entering in festivals for a sci-fi thriller called Odessa. They entered Odessa into one festival and got picked up by BET Digital to create more episodes after only creating the pilot.
Oh, wow.
And then just recently, they entered the Odessa pilot again into the New York Television Fest and got a sci-fi development deal off of that. So they put out a trailer that was so good, it actually got them not one, but 2 television deals.
Wow, that's cool.
So I mean, it's happening, and people are getting out there, but it's still the rarity. There are still tons of series that, they'll make 6 or 8 episodes, won't really have consistent content. And the problem with that is by the time that you've built up an audience, or even by the time you're even starting to build an audience, if people are starting to find you and get to know who you are, you're suddenly out of stuff to show them.
Right.
And you're out of money, and you're out of favors, and it makes it really, really difficult to continue the project, come back for a season 2, to create more episodes. Even, a successful series like Anyone But Me, because they had built a relationship on high production value quality episodes, it was very difficult to sustain that. When you're shooting for that much an episode, and in that case, it was necessary and it worked. That show wouldn't have been what it was and wouldn't have attracted the following that it was on a much lower production budget. If they were shooting for $100, $200 an episode, you can't make that show.
Right.
But they were successful with it. They passed 11 million views, and were able to crowdsource the 3rd season that they did. But it can be really difficult, even for a successful show, to get connected to brands and sponsors, or find a television deal, or get picked up for a movie like Universal Dead did. It's really the exception. So what I think really has to happen, and the creators who have been successful have proven this by doing it, you have to kind of look at what's going on, learn about the space, first of all, which is why I love the show, and I love having Chris Greenaway on. Sorry he couldn't make it today, but he's got a tremendous amount of knowledge and insight about the history of the space, and what other people have done, and what has worked and what hasn't. And they're the people by and large who are coming up with new ideas and new ways of doing things start by learning about the space. Sorry, I have to hang up my phone. I think a great example of that is Bernie Sue. Bernie, before he made Compulsions, spent basically a year photographing tube filter events. Right. And no one really thought of him as a creator. They thought of him as the tube filter photographer, and he was working a full-time job at an events company doing marketing and promotions for the product. And he's a great guy. Everybody liked him. Everybody knew him. Everybody's talking to him. And for a year, everybody's telling them what they're doing with their shows, how they're going about their process, and Bernie's just soaking it in. So by the time he got around to doing Compulsions and launched it, he had a great team put together through connections that he'd made, either in the web space or previous to it. When he held his auditions, he didn't plan, the goal wasn't to hire web series actors, but because the web series actors knew him, they showed up, and guys like Craig Frank and David Nett showed up and just killed the audition, and he could not cast them. Taron O'Neill is another one, of course, and he did that, and he was successful with it in the sense that he was able to put together a distribution deal with Dailymotion, and that led to him different things that have happened to him in his career. But at the same time, he's also trying to think completely differently as well with something like Game Room, which is I don't want to say low budget because it looks really good, but it's a simple to film concept that he can do repeatable content, and he's released 50-something episodes already on YouTube, and is building up a following that way. So he's really kind of approaching it from both sides, because he's not just trying to do what everybody else is doing. He's trying to figure out, how can I take what I'm good at and apply it, learn from what other people have done, because that's the big thing. None of this is happening in a vacuum anymore, right? 2005, 2006, even kind of going into 2007, there's a lot of stuff that hadn't been tried. But there's a history to look at now. You can look at what's happened on Blip in the last 6 years. You can look at what's happened on YouTube in the last 6 years. You can look at what other people have done and how they've become successful, and you can say, okay, what's the next evolution of that? That's one of the things that we try and do at OMFGeek. We've got the OMFGeek TV show to leverage and connect with YouTube as a social network and create content that really works for the YouTube ecosystem. But we have other shows that we're doing as well. I mean, we're doing, but it's tailored to platforms, and in each instance, we're trying to do something different. We have a video game review show that we're doing with Dustin Diamond from Saved by the Bell hosting.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And I can't, I'm not at a place yet where I can give a lot of details about that, but first of all, Dustin Diamond knows more about video games than anybody on this planet. That's all he did in his trailer on Saved by the Bell is play video games, and he had the money to walk in and buy all of them. The guy's got 25,000 video games on his show.
Oh, wow.
And he runs, and I can't say which one, but he runs one of the biggest guilds in World of Warcraft.
Okay.
Guy knows his gaming, so we're super excited to have him on board. But it's a video game review show. One of the very first things that we started thinking about is how can we do a video game review show that's different from just pointing a camera at someone and having them talk about the video game for 10 minutes, with cutscenes or gameplay screens running in the background.
Now, did you look at something like Nintendo or Nintendo Game Nerd? He's done well.
Yeah, Angry Game.
Yeah, that's it. Angry
Game Nerd.
Yeah.
No, we looked at what he was doing. We looked at what they were doing on App Judgment and Project Lore, and I mean we went across. I love Zero Punctuation. I think that's an amazing video game review show that The Escapist does, and it's hilarious, and it's not just a guy sitting there looking at a camera talking about games. The concept that we're doing is different from Zero Punctuation, obviously. It's not animated or anything like that. But we really kind of took that as the model and said, okay, we know this is what we want to do. We want to do reviews of tablet games for iPad and Android tablets because no one's really doing that just yet. And it's a big market.
Yep.
And 85% of people who own a tablet use it for gaming. And there's a real problem there that we can solve because almost everything in the App Store and in the Android market, people charge for, and it's like, if you've never played the game, how do you know if it's worth that $1.99 or $2.99 or $4.99 that they're charging? So that's one of the things that we can solve is we can show you the game and we can say, yes, this is worth $5, or no, it's not. And we can do it in a really fun, inventive way, and we can find ways to get distribution and funding for it by starting from a point of attaching, a recognizable talent to it and go from there.
Oh, it sounds like a great idea. Sounds good. And so where will that be? Will that be on what channel? On your YouTube channel?
I can't say yet.
Oh, okay. So
we're working on various distribution partners. There's a couple of people that we're talking to. It will probably have a presence on YouTube. It's also going to exist as a tablet magazine where we'll take written text reviews of games and combine them with the video components for the show that we're creating and create like a weekly magazine on tablets. And then as far as on the web, there's a couple of places that have already put together a really good audience around video games and gaming. And we're in the process of talking to those guys about reaching an agreement to have, that kind of be the show's home. But, the thing with the outside distributors, whether it's Machinima or My Damn Channel or Next New Networks or Revision 3, like, everybody has YouTube channels.
Yeah.
So it always ends up on YouTube anyway.
You're right, yeah.
Because YouTube's just too big you can't not have it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you got to be on there. That's where the audience is.
Yeah.
Now, I don't even really spend. I've got the big three with me. I spend an awful lot of time on YouTube. I'm on Coldcast and I'm on Blip. And I used to be everywhere, but
you think Coldcast is big? I'm asking this honestly. You think Coldcast is part of the big three?
For me, it is.
For the big three? Okay.
For me, it is. Those are my big three. That's where I've had success. We're very close to 4 million views of Spell Fury, and it's those three places is where I've gotten the majority of it. So for me, I don't spend hardly any time on Vimeo or Dailymotion, or I used to be on MetaCafe and Break and Funny or Die. I don't spend any time on those sites anymore because the time I put into it, I don't get back. So it's just for me those three places.
Hey, I really like, and I didn't want to mean to imply that Coldcast is not in the top three distributors. It's some people know about them, some people don't. I really like David Samuels and what he's been doing. And Marty Rescagini was a great hire for them.
Yep.
You know, that company's done some incredible things, and I've known. I first met David Samuels at the original Streamies in 2009, so we've, you know, touched base throughout the whole process. I haven't had a show on Coldcast, but obviously I know a lot of people who have, including yourself. It's interesting to see the way that they're approaching it and the things that they're doing, because I think they are trying to do something different than, say, what Rob Barnett's doing at My Damn Channel, or what Mike and Dina are doing at Blip. It's a different kind of approach,
I like how they focus on web series. It's just web series. It's even on Blip you're getting YouTube and web series. So I just love that. It's so pure. It's just like, if you have a web series, that's the place.
Well, I probably have a different definition of web series than you.
Right.
Because I count web series as serialized content made for the web. So whether it's Shane Dawson or Freddie Wong or any, they're doing serialized content.
They are, yes, yeah.
They're doing, you know, it's the Shane Dawson show or the Shay Carl show or the I Justine show, but they're doing shows.
I am more scripted.
I consider that, you know.
I do too.
Well, scripted is a whole different thing, though, because you know, it's definitely part of the scenario, but blogs aren't the only unscripted format. There's game shows, reality shows, hosted shows. There's the majority of the successful content that's been on the web to date has been unscripted
it's true.
content.
Yep.
Or lightly scripted content, I guess you could call it, because there are very few people that are actually just turning on a camera and saying whatever comes into their head. But as opposed to scripted narrative content, you know, there have been successful examples of that for sure, but I think we're just now getting to the point where that's becoming more and more sustainable. We've had a lot of things change in the last few years. Hulu and Netflix have changed the way that people consume video online and gotten them used to watching longer form video by watching TV shows and movies. We're getting to the point where everybody's site metrics are going from, you know, 2-minute videos in the middle of the workday to average viewing times of 13, 14 minutes during, you know, prime time, you know, 6 to 9 p.m. On weeknights. So it's rapidly evolving and becoming a space that is sustainable for scripted narrative projects. That said, that would have never happened without years of people making scripted narrative shows and putting it out there. And there are a lot of great shows that got watched. There are a lot of bad shows that got watched. There are a lot of great shows that didn't get watched. There's a lot of bad shows that didn't get watched. But all of that was necessary. Like, you had to have people out there and saying, you know, like, I know there's no business plan in place for what I'm doing, but I'm still going to spend, you know, $5, $10, $20, $30,000 of my own money because I really want to tell this story the best that I can with the resources that I have and get it out there and try and find an audience for it. And that is how we got here. Without those guys, none of this happens. You know, without guys like you out there and just saying, you know what, I'm going to make a show. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I'm going to keep making it and
until it's successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for the first year, this is the first year where Spell Fury is making me money. You know, I've been at it since, I think I released my first episode late 2008. So I've been at it a long time with the show, but I haven't quit. You just got to keep at it. And things start to happen for you. Your show gets better, your audience builds, and opportunities just start to happen. Like, I got an email from someone last night he owns a satellite company in like the Caribbean, and he's a Spell Fury fan, and he's like, I'm not quite sure what his name is. Could be, but anyways, he goes, I want to put it on my network, and on satellite, and he wanted sort of the rights to it and stuff. So just neat things start to happen. People come out, your fans will try to help you out. It's just you just got to keep at it. You can't quit.
And it's important, I think, to note that it's the persistence and the consistency that gets results. It doesn't necessarily have to be with the same show. You look at something like a company like Big Fantastic, Chris McCaleb's company. They started with Sam Has 7 Friends, did Sorority Forever and Prom Queen and all that stuff. But they've been consistently putting out stuff all the way up through Seth Green's Control TV last year. Or you look at something like Al Thompson at Valdine Entertainment, who's done Baby Daddy Memoirs and Odessa and a bunch of other stuff. He's done like 5, 6, 7 shows or whatever. And he just keeps putting stuff out there and doing that. I mean, that's the plan for OMFGeek. We're going to keep making shows. We have 4 shows in development right now and 2 more that we're pitching. That's a lot of content that we're doing, and the whole point of that is that's the only way that you can grow your reputation, you can grow your audience, you just have to keep at it, and you have to stay involved, and you have to just say, like, I'm doing online video, and this is what I want to do, this is what I love, and I'm just going to keep doing it until I find some success.
Yeah, and it's tough too, like, I know we were talking to Tom with Safety Geeks, and he had such, it had high production values, and it's tough. Even Spell Fury, there's so many, it's a lot of it's green screen, and it's a lot of time with visual effects. And the trick I find with my show is just, you just have to bring the costs down, and find ways to tell your story within your means. Like we're not.
You have to bring the cost down and the revenue up, but it is about making shows within your means,
right,
and making stuff that's sustainable. I think it's about ancillary content too. You have to have other videos to go around it. I mean, look, Freddie Wong puts out a video a week, but he also puts out the making of video every single week too.
Right.
He's not just releasing one thing a week. He's finding ways to take what he's already making and create supplementary content around it, and that keeps it. Every time that you release a new video, you're creating an opportunity for people to find your stuff, right? Whether it's your show or just your overall body of work, whatever it is, every single new video is a new opportunity to find an audience. Whether that video is an episode of the show or whether it's a behind the scenes or some other kind of supplementary content, it's still an opportunity to build audience. Obviously, episodes tend to do better view-wise than like behind-the-scenes footage or blooper reels, but it can still, everything helps. The more videos that you can put out, the more consistently you can release content, the more you're creating opportunities for an audience to find you. Yeah,
I know with my YouTube channel, so Spell Fury, it takes time to do it, just because, again, it's all green screen and layers, and it's just a lot of rendering time. But I release probably at least 2 videos a week to YouTube over the last, since 2000.
And if Spell Fury is not just you, it's you and a small team, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's not like you have 100 people working on Spell Fury.
Right. Like, and I end up doing most of the post work, so it takes time. It takes one guy to do it all. But at the same time, my audience is still growing, because my subscribers on YouTube are, we just crossed 8,000, and I've been slowly growing that since 2006. And I know if I don't put out videos, I'm going to start losing subscribers. So there's a ticking clock in my head that, after a few days, I'm like, okay, I got to put something out.
But YouTube channel, which by the way is /OMFGeek TV, hasn't put out a video since June 7th, and believe me, it's killed me. We've had a bunch of stuff going on, and the reason for the break is because we're right on the cusp of releasing a lot of content.
Right.
And that took time to develop, so we had to take the time off to make sure everything was ready. But that said, every time I check my channel and see the last upload date, it's first week of June, I just want to, bow my head and cry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll get like subscribers bugging me, sending me messages. So I have to give them something, and it's good. It's good. They poke me and like, when's the next episode coming out? When's the next episode? And they bug me, and I like that. It keeps me motivated. I know that as soon as the episode's out, I'm gonna get tons of feedback because they're waiting for it. But that's the great thing about YouTube. It's for me, and guys like Chris and yourself. It's a home for creators. It's always been a home for me. I've always known I've got my subscribers there. They're waiting for my next stuff. I've got friends there. I've had friends there since 2006. Watching my work. So
it's the same thing I like about Blip, although it's in a different way. There is a community aspect of Blip, but it's not nearly as developed as YouTube's. But it's still a home for creators because Blip themselves are a very creator-centric company. They work hard to provide, distribution points. You upload the Blip, it goes out to a bunch of different places to help the creators. They have higher CPMs than anybody else as far as ad revenue monetization. They're only recently working on becoming any kind of functional destination site, but they're getting there. And, I think Coldcast is kind of the same way, and so is My Damn Channel. I know My Damn Channel runs more like a big family than a distribution company because they are, such a heavily curated site. There's only, 10 or 12 shows on that site, I think, at any given time, and Rob, forgive me if I'm getting that wrong, but as far as the exact number. But yeah, they don't have, a million shows on there, but that creates that kind of sense of community with people that I was lucky enough when I was working at CJP that we were able to put the web ventures of Justin Nolan on my Damn Channel, and we put Easy to Assemble on my Damn Channel, and we put Template, starting with season 5, went to my Damn Channel, and being able to experience that and see the traffic that it brought us, and see, become part of that community. There's a lot of great people working on that platform. It was great, and I was there for slightly less than a year, but just getting to work with Wilson Cleveland for that time was an amazing learning experience. Wilson's really at the top of the game when it comes to developing projects around brands and telling their stories, and he's even finding ways to build audiences on YouTube for content that you wouldn't think necessarily would be YouTube oriented, but they just released that show Leap Year that Peter Bernofsky wrote, and even the YouTube audience, and I know they're distributed elsewhere as well, so there's more people that watch it than just the YouTube view count. For a show that doesn't feel like YouTube content in the way that you would normally think of the people that are finding audiences on YouTube, they're sitting between 50 and 100,000 views on every single episode of that show.
Wow, that's good. Yeah. So, well, in thing with Coldcast or Blip, My Damn Channel, I find those it feels like a home for creators there. Like I know on Coldcast, it's tons of creators. I can talk to them. But I find with YouTube, it's a home for me with my fans, fans and my friends. It's more, what I'm saying?
That's why I refer to YouTube as a video social network.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because that's the key to success on YouTube is to engage it like a social network.
Yeah. And
every social network has its own rules. But there are parallels. It's obviously not exactly the same. But if your goal is to go on Twitter and get 50,000 Twitter followers, right? There are certain ways that you have to design your Twitter account, certain content that you have to put out there to kind of develop that kind of audience on Twitter, and if you do it, you can reach that, and it's I think very similar to how YouTube should be approached if your goal is to get 50,000 subscribers instead of as opposed to 50,000 Twitter followers. You have to understand the medium. You have to understand what is attractive to the people who are using it. You have to engage with them and become a part of it. You can't just upload a video to YouTube and walk away and say,
Right.
it's on my YouTube channel. That's enough, right?
Right. Yeah, because it's just going to sit there and get cobwebs.
But that's why YouTube has. It's part of why YouTube has such a large audience, and why that feeling that you're describing is there, because platforms like My Damn Channel and Coldcast, and more so Blip. Blip has more community tools than Coldcast or My Damn Channel, although they exist. They're just not as much the focus.
Right.
It's more of a lean back kind of experience than let's get engaged. And here's the scary thing about YouTube: the actual percentage of people who watch videos on YouTube but are actually subscribing and commenting and favoriting and participating in the environment is relatively small. I don't remember the number right. It's like 35% of YouTube's audience actually engages with the community, which means that there's another 65% of people watching videos on YouTube who currently aren't.
Right.
So you look at the audience numbers and the subscriber numbers and the engagement that's happening now, it's got nowhere to go but up.
Right, right. Well, I know too, like, if someone comments on your video, there's probably 50 people thinking the exact same thing, and just one guy said it. So you gotta, when someone comments, listen.
Absolutely, and that's one of those opportunities where you can start thinking, trying to think like an entrepreneur. Start thinking like, okay, what can I do to take advantage of this opportunity? The fact that there's audience watching my show that isn't engaging with it. What can I do that's different to turn those people to go take someone? If you're watching my content, if you're watching my show, and you're not the type of person that would normally, hit the subscribe button or favorite a video or leave a comment or give it a thumbs up, is there something that I can do that will get you to be the guy that says, I've never written a YouTube comment before, but I just had to tell you,
sure,
blah, blah, and those, recognizing those opportunities and coming up with solutions to them is a big part of being successful to online video. You have to make a good show, yes, but you also have to realize that the actual conception and production of the show is 25 to 50% of the job.
So that concludes the interview with Jeff Koenig. I want to thank him for coming on the show. If you'd like to speak to Jeff, you can get a hold of him at OMFGeek.com. Myself, Travis Gordon, you can contact me on Twitter at Travis Gordon. Thanks for watching the show, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.